Guest videos. Richard Dad. Richard Dad, the 1st of August, 1817 to the 7th of January, 1886, was an English painter, noted for his depictions of scenes rendered with obsessively minuscule detail. Thus he did not transfigure a scene as Lowry did, but painted a scene of such detail that it would have been impossible to have seen it with the naked eye, pure perception. His paintings were also of subjects that would be considered imaginary, terrestrial spirits, gnomes, dwarfs and fairies, not always benign. Subjects he may have been able to perceive in his deteriorating mental state. Dad's early life. Dad applied and was admitted to the Royal Academy in December of 1837 at age 20. This is a self-portrait done in 1841. One of his friends was Augustus Egg, and the portrait he did of Egg is shown here. During 1840 and 1841, he began to work on Shakespeare illustrations, and in 1842, he exhibited a version of one of his greatest early works, Come Unto These Yellow Sands, at the Royal Academy exhibit. So, although he did do quite conventional and rather unimaginative landscapes, his heart lay in the realm of the supernatural and fairy even early on. This is Puck, done in 1841. And the taste he developed as a child for classics and Shakespeare, this is Titania Sleeping, 1841, stayed with him throughout his life. This is Hamlet and his mother, the closet scene, done in 1840. The ghost in the scene was later painted out. Although we can see Hamlet is startled by something. It may be relevant to note that Dad lost his mother when he was 7 years old, and this is his mother and child. The turning point. In July 1842, Sir Thomas Phillips, the former mayor of Newport, chose Dad to accompany him as his draftsman on an expedition. This painting was by Francis Williams, not Dad. It was a hectic tour through Europe to Greece, Turkey, southern Syria, and finally Egypt. But Dad did what was asked. He made sketches that could be used later, and painted full views when he could. This is the minaret of the Grand Mosque Damascus. And this is Caravan halted by the seashore. And this is Caravanserai at Mylasa in Asia Minor, with its mass of birds circling around the roof, painted later. During this time the two had sailed via Corfu to Patras and on to Athens. From Athens, they visited Smyrna and Constantinople, returning to Smyrna in late September of 1842. And this painting is Dad's The Artist's Halt in the Desert. From Bodrum, Dad and Phillips moved on to Lycia in Asia Minor, and then to Rhodes, Cyprus and Beirut. From Beirut, they traveled by mule and foot to Tripoli and Damascus, followed by a swift tour of Holy Land sites that left them exhausted, in Jerusalem, in early November of 1842. This is a detailed shot of Dad's The Artist's Halt in the Desert. And the constant travel, the change of food and scene, the massive images and the workload had their effect. This is The Hermit, drawn later in 1853. And this letter was written in 1842, when Dad revealed his elation and confusion. This is his sketch of Christ walking on water. The excitement of these scenes has been enough to turn the brain of an ordinary weak-minded person like myself. And often I have lain down at night with my imagination so full of wild vagaries that I have really and truly doubted my own sanity. Meanwhile, his employer Thomas Phillips, who had been shot in the arm and groin during the Newport Rising, was smoking hookahs, which can be used for tobacco, cannabis, hashish and opium, all painkillers. Psychosis sets in. After an excursion to the Dead Sea, the two traveled by boat up the Nile Valley to Thebes, arriving there just before Christmas. Towards the end of December, Dad underwent a dramatic personality change, becoming delusional, increasingly violent, and believing himself to be under the influence of the Egyptian god Osiris. You can see the deterioration in his mental state over time from his pictures. This is Dad as a youth. Dad in his 20s as his face elongates, body distortion. Dad when he becomes Crazy Jane. And Dad when he becomes a part of a bacchanalian scene in 1862. The flight out of Egypt. And here we pause to watch our first video, the Tate Gallery's painting The Flight Out of Egypt, painted in 1849 to 1850, after he had been committed to hospital. Search for Richard Dad's The Flight Out of Egypt, Why I Love Tate. Untitled by the artist, this painting is an assemblage of some of the scenes he encountered during his travels. It is painted with all the detail he was unable to capture during the hectic and stressful journey he had undertaken with Phillips. The final descent into madness. Richard's father, although maintaining publicly that nothing was wrong, had Alexander Sutherland of St. Luke's Hospital examine Richard. Sutherland concluded that Dad was non compos mentis. Robert Dad, Richard's father, accompanied Richard on a trip to Cobham on August 28, 1843, during which Richard had promised to disburden his mind to his father. In this family portrait, we see his father top right. The two travelled down to Cobham, ate dinner in a local inn, and then walked out into the countryside. At about 11 p.m., Dad attacked his father with a knife and razor, and killed him. His pictures become full of murders. This is the death of Richard II. Richard left Cobham immediately after killing his father, heading to Dover, where he boarded a ship for Calais. And this is the murder of Henry VI by Richard III. Robert Dad's body was discovered on Tuesday morning. Richard's description was sent to the Metropolitan Police. And this is the death of Abimelech at Thebes. Meanwhile, Richard had been detained in Calais by the douanier, customs agent, but released. He had changed his blood-stained clothes and then traveled to Paris, during which trip he attempted to cut the throat of a fellow traveler. And this is his Robin Hood. He was taken into custody in Montero, confessed that he had murdered his father, then moved to the Clermont Asylum at Fontainebleau. And here David spares Saul's life. Dad remained in Clermont until late July of 1844, when he was returned to England for a hearing in Rochester. Dad pleaded guilty and was sentenced to removal to a place of permanent safety, without coming to trial, in Broadmoor and Bethlem. Dad was to remain in Bethlem Hospital until July of 1864, a period just under 20 years. But interspersed with his metaphysical paintings showing extraordinary levels of detail, are works that one could call remarkable only for their imagination and composition. For example, this is his portrait of a young man. Dad also painted portraits of the enlightened medical staff who allowed him this time to paint. This portrait is of Sir Alexander Morrison, 1779 to 1866, who was Dad's own alienist, that is, psychiatrist. Dad was asked to do 33 watercolor drawings titled Sketches to Illustrate the Passions. All have Dad's quirky take on the passion, certainly indicating madness, love, melancholia, senility, raving madness, recklessness, idleness, ambition, grief or sorrow, deceit and duplicity, jealousy, pride, hatred, suspense or expectation, want, treachery, insignificance or self-contempt, negation, avarice, vanity. His fish market by the sea shows fishwives in traditional skirts and stockings with their catch. And wandering musicians in the Tate Gallery show 3 musicians in a Greek landscape. Painted in 1851, the infant Aesculapius discovered by shepherds on a mountain may again be deemed a most unusual and striking composition, but not demonstrating obsessive minuscule detail. Indeed, his Sketch of a Curiosity Shop from 1854 might even be said to exhibit humor. But 2 paintings stand out as superb examples of hyper-realism. The Fair Fella's masterstroke, which he worked on between 1855 and 1864, 9 years. It is a hallucinatory vision of fantastic creatures, seen as if with a magnifying glass through a delicate network of grasses and flowers. Contradiction, Oberon and Titania, also executed with a miniaturist's eye for detail. About the second video. The second video we have included is Richard Dadd, the Artist and the Asylum, Tate Shots. Nicholas Tromans, author of The Artist and the Asylum, heads behind the scenes at both the Tate and Cambridge Fitzwilliam Museum to tell us the tale of the Fairy Fella's masterstroke. We would recommend a visit to the Tate, where you should spend several hours looking at all the details. After 20 years at Bethlehem, Dadd was moved to Broadmoor Hospital. There he remained, painting constantly and receiving infrequent visitors. Until the 7th of January, 1886, when he died from an extensive disease of the lungs.